Bad Times at the El Royale is a mystery thriller film and is directed by Drew Goddard and stars Jeff Bridges, Cynthia Erivo, Dakota Johnson, John Hamm, and Chris Hemsworth. The film is about 7 strangers who meet at a rundown hotel with each character having their own secrets. This should have been better than what it was. This wasn't a bad movie, but I was just looking for so much more. And to get it out of the way first, this film, without hiding it, is pretty much kind of like a Tarantino film. And to me, none of the stuff that worked in Tarantino's films worked here. The film does have a few good moments that stood out to me, but unfortunately there was just not enough. The opening scene of this film pretty much hooked me in straight away. The way the scene was framed and shot, the editing that ties in with the music, this was my favorite scene in the film. But after this scene, the film goes downhill. The first thing that stuck out to me was the writing didn't have the zing that you would see in most Tarantino scripts. And I know I keep bringing up Tarantino, but this is what the film is trying to go for. It's trying to go for that Tarantino type film, and it just doesn't pull it off. None of the dialogue that the characters say are memorable, nor do they stick out. The things that killed this movie for me was it just wasn't interesting. I didn't really care for the setup or the plot of this movie, and even with the characters and their wide range of personalities, I just wasn't invested in them. However, to be fair, 2 of them were the true standouts, and those were the characters played by Jeff Bridges and Cynthia Erivo. And with Jeff Bridges' character, you really feel sympathy for him. And Cynthia Erivo was just a joy to watch. For a good 75% of this movie, I just wasn't getting into it. And this is one of those films that is more style over substance. And while the style was interesting to watch, with the cinematography looking nice, the soundtrack being awesome, and the visual style really standing out, the substance really sucked. As I've just said, it was hard for me to get into the characters. The story for me was just boring. However, it's not until the 3rd act when I got hooked again. And this is when Chris Hemsworth comes in. He pretty much saves this last third of the movie for me. And while he's just okay in this film, like he doesn't give the best performance of his career, he was just such an entertaining character to watch. And with the first 2/3 of this movie, besides Jeff Bridges and Cynthia Erivo, all the characters were boring. John Hamm is not on screen enough to leave an impact. And I really wanted to like Dakota Johnson's character because I believe she has the potential to be a great actress, but this just wasn't the role. And there were other characters, but I didn't really care about them. Overall, while it wasn't terrible, it wasn't great either. There were still enough moments that I could say were positive, but I would still give a mixed response on this film. The things this film does well, it does really well. The soundtrack had a very good selection of songs. Jeff Bridges and Cynthia Erivo played the best characters in the movie. The 3rd act and the opening scene were the best executed in the entire film. Everything else, however, is such a struggle. Most of the characters and the story itself was boring. And this film had the making to be great, but this film in total just ended up being pointless. And it's hard for me to recommend this film because this is a film I don't think is worth seeing. It's not the most rewarding film to watch, and this was one of the more forgettable films I've seen from this year. So I would just say skip this film. There are a lot better films out there. And I'm going to give Bad Times at the El Royale a 6.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, be sure to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my channel below. As always, I'm NETX5. Thank you for watching.